Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5.
Always fun to do this on a Friday afternoon with a big weekend of sports on tap. It makes your life, I'm sure, a lot easier. You got to cull your list down to 5 just to make it fit. So how are we starting today?
We'll start with your Minnesota Vikings, even though we were just with Ben Gessling. I'm going to look at the injury report here. Only one player out. That's Stephon Gilmore, listed with a hamstring, didn't practice all week. But a lot questionable. Patrick Jones, questionable. Van Ginkel, DePaula, Will Reichert, questionable. Dalton Reisner, questionable. And Harrison Phillips, questionable, all for your Vikings. But as we've said many times, this feels like a get right, blow them out of the water type game. And I agree with you.
And I think from what Gessling said, if they still allowed you to say probable, I think a lot of these guys would be probable. Like they're a little nicked up and they missed some practice time, but...
Do they outlaw probable?
Yeah, there's no more probable. You cannot say probable. It's illegal. So that's that's the closest thing to playing now is questionable. Sounds like all of those guys, barring a setback, are on track. I should have asked you during the break just to check the Falcons injury report.
I've got it right here.
Do you? I don't think it's quite as meaty.
Well, there's a lot of guys on the list, but I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them are non-injury related. Whether it's personal matter, most of them are rest related. There's only one out for the Falcons. That is Jace McClellan, a running back. Did not practice all week with a knee. Questionable. I'm not even going to try that. A defensive tackle.
Yeah. A lot of consonants in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of vowels in that one.
A lot of vowels.
And Mike Hughes as well. That cornerback is questionable, even though he fully practiced with a neck injury.
Former Viking Mike Hughes.
Yes.
Yeah, we're on the same page. Gessling, I think he doesn't think it's going to be a massive win. I think he had it Vikes by 7 in his story in the Star Tribune. It's not who you play, it's when you play them. This is a Falcons team in free fall right now. I mean, it was a month ago, they were 6-3. They looked to be cruising through the NFC South. They'd already swept Tampa Bay, so they already had the tiebreaker on them. The other two teams are pitiful. And look what's happened. I mean, Kirk hasn't thrown a touchdown pass the last 3 games. 6 picks, 4 last week, and now he's got the pressure of coming back to Minnesota, where clearly he's going to get booed off the field. I mean, if the Bradshaw and Bryan KFAN text line is any indication, he better be thick-skinned and keep the chains inside the jersey and not show those. Some teams just don't match up well with you, and I don't think the Vikings match up well with Atlanta. You want to have a mobile quarterback against Minnesota, although Kyler Murray didn't do much last week, but that'll help. Not a statue who's worried about his Achilles and who knows what other injuries he's dealing with. This feels like a chance for the Vikings to put the close games to bed for a time. Who we got next week? Who the Vikes have?
The Vikings next week.
Bears, right? Bears at home.
Go to the Bears from Monday Night Football.
That's here,
as of
though.
now.
That's here.
Oh, yes, that's here. Sorry.
It's a third straight game at the Purple Palace. That's Monday night?
As of now, yes. I don't know if they flexed it or not. Well, no. But the original schedule is Monday Night Football.
I think by now you have to have already flexed it. I mean, there are people making plans. So I'm assuming that's going to stay in play. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what the Bears do in San Francisco this week. I have a feeling they're going to make that one very competitive. I always buy into the first game with a new coach, like ding dong, the witch is dead kind of thing, and the players rise up. They've had extra time, but they've been pitiful on the road, haven't they? I don't think they've won on the road in years, unless I'm mistaken. I've totally devolved off your top 5, haven't I?
Yeah, a little bit. Vikings injury report. Well, if we can rip the Bears,
there's always we take the opportunity when it's there,
especially when Lavelle's coming on in a half
noon. Correct, noon kickoff on Sunday. The Boom right here on your home for the Purple at noon. Pregame at 10. Pre at 9. Well, let's go pre. 8:00 Packer preview.
Yes,
it's more of a Packer review for us. 9:00 Sunday sermons. I'm sitting in the chair for that, so I don't have to go anywhere after the show. And then it's Vikings football Sunday at 10. Kickoff at noon. Vikings favored by 5.5, I believe, over your Atlanta Falcons. I would head down to Diamond Joe and sprinkle a few bucks on the Purple if I were so inclined.
It's up to 6 now.
Yeah, it's
6
moving.
points.
It might be 7 by Sunday.
Yeah.
It's not going to be close on Sunday.
Have we ran up the flagpole for Sunday? The first hour, 7 to 8,
No, we're here at 8.
Yeah, 8 to 9 be Packer review, and 9 to 10 be Packer previewing the game in Seattle. Have we ran that up the flagpole?
We haven't yet.
Think about it.
Not a bad idea.
Who says no?
The question I have is, will you be here by 8 o'clock on Sunday?
Well,
can you get here by 8?
I was here by 8.
By the skin of your teeth.
Yeah, not good. Well, let's go here for the top 5.
Time now for the obligatory Kevin Fallness Minnesota Wild mention.
We do have to get it in. The Wild are in Anaheim tonight. They're coming off a dramatic win with the winner sounding like this.
Flipping a pass to Rossi. It skipped away. Rossi tried to get it back. He turned it over. It's a 2-on-0. Suter to Besser. In with a shot at the goalpost. And the Wild counter. Hampton left in overtime. Does Rossi have anything left in the tank? He'll charge into the slot. Left it up. Kaprizov. Scores! Kaprizov buries it. And the Wild beat the Canucks in overtime. 3-2 the final.
Yeah, the breaking news right when we started the show, Eric Sinek now on IR. That frees up a spot, a roster spot for the Wild. The lineup, I'm looking at it. The second line is Hartman, Foligno, Johansson. So if they're going to get offense, it's going to have to come from Rossi, Boldy, and Kaprizov on the top line.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I know. Going to Anaheim, I was telling Russo this off air, going to Anaheim is always the world's most boring matchup for the Wild. I don't know what it is. Every time there, the arena's dead. There's no one in there.
Really?
Yeah, it'll be like a 2-1 where it's 2-1 in like the end of the first, and then it's just the final is 2-1, and we don't see any goals from there on. Like, it's just always a boring game in Anaheim. So there's that.
There is that. That was a great game-winning goal call, by the way.
Yes.
All that was missing was, of course, and there is your dagger.
Oh, imagine.
Could you? I mean, that would have just put the exclamation point on that call. That was sweet.
100%. By the way, the Wild 8:45 pregame, 9 o'clock puck drop right here on the Fan. Let's talk about your squad though, and not the Packers. Although I wish I would put them in the top 5, but I might get thrown out for how much Packers talk we've done. The Wolves are taking on the Warriors tonight. You can hear it on the iHeartRadio app on the Timberwolves channel. 3 wins in a row for Fincho. Have they turned the corner, the Timberwolves?
This, for me, is the most epic Friday night of sports watching I think I could ask for. I mean, for real. Let me just quickly, it's all about me for a moment.
Okay.
So, in an hour, my Hoosiers tip off, and I'm going to find the Big Ten Network in here because we're on until 6:30. I'll watch Hoosiers Miami of Ohio. 6:30.
That's a barn burner. You have to have that on.
My club has not looked real strong of late. They've not looked good. Then at 6:30, Bucks Celtics on ESPN. Bucks get Chris Middleton back for the first time this season. So while I'm watching that, I'll dive into the Wild from time to time.
Well, I knew that.
You know, I got to do my due diligence because I'll be in for sermons on Sunday. We'll talk about the 2 Wild games. Then the Wolves tip off at 9, which we're going to get to in a second. And then there's a big college football game tonight, too. The Boise State UNLV game, I believe it is, which has all kinds of implications. And you get to watch that blue field, which is always fun. I can't wait to watch the Wolves tonight. This is a team that it's been ugly, but the last 3 games have provided some hope. Well, the last 2 games. The first game against the Clippers, frankly, they were kind of fortunate to pull that one out. But the last 2, the defense has suddenly seemed to have found its bearings. Rudy looks much more like the Rudy we saw last year. The perimeter defenders are doing their thing. Everybody seems more comfortable. But now here comes Golden State, team that got off to a red-hot start. Then they dropped 5 in a row. And Curry's been banged up. And Curry and Draymond Green missed the game they hosted last night against the Rockets. Rockets, the number 2 team in the West. Yet Golden State beat the Rockets without Curry and Green. So you get Golden State on the second half of a back-to-back. That's an advantage. But Curry and Green will be fresh as daisies, and it sounds like they will indeed play. Anthony Slater, who covers the Warriors for The Athletic, tweeted about an hour ago that both Steph Curry and Draymond Green are on track to return against the Wolves tonight. They are probable. Andrew Wiggins is questionable, battling an ankle issue. He was big last night for them. I think he had 23 points on a night they needed him without Curry and Green. Whenever Draymond Green and Rudy Gobert share a court, you make yourself a big old batch of popcorn and you don't turn the channel because you might miss fireworks. And it may not be tonight because it's back-to-back. We play them again Sunday. So, whatever happens tonight could carry over to Sunday, and that could be the night where Draymond loses his you-know-what.
There might have to be a penalty box in this game if they go 5 minutes for fighting. If they have a headlock again, like last time.
They should, for this game, a little temporary box.
Yeah.
For mostly Draymond, maybe Rudy too. He just gets, he'll try to get in Rudy's head. We'll see if Rudy can rise above. He's been pretty good about that. But again, a really good chance tonight for the Wolves. If you got to play them back-to-back, the worst case, you want to split. You'd love to sweep, but this just in, you can't sweep if you don't win the first one. So let's see if they can string some wins together and to start to make a statement in a West where if these playoffs started right now, your Minnesota Timberwolves will be the 10th team in the West. They'd be in the play-in. That's actually an improvement from where they've been the last couple weeks.
Oh, got time for one more. Do you want to talk Belichick or Hard Knocks? Give your choice.
Let's talk Belichick.
Belichick. I didn't see this coming, but apparently he's interviewing for the North Carolina head coach position. Jonathan Jones of CBS Sports reported that Belichick will meet again with North Carolina tomorrow.
I did see this. It would be delicious. Like, they signed Belichick. Shocker of the world. He's coaching college football. He goes to North Carolina, and he's going to, this is his new challenge to take over, to be the new Nick Saban. And then he sits down at his first meeting and he goes, I see this word nil. Like, what does nil mean? Like, what do we do? What does that mean? Well, now you can buy players. You don't just recruit them, but you actually buy them. And then he's going to say what? There is no way Bill Belichick's coaching college football and dealing at, how old is he? 72, 73?
He's not going to text a 17-year-old come play for North Carolina.
Or
he doesn't have time for that.
Right, or beg his starting cornerback to not hit the transfer portal, to stay with him. I don't understand this at all. Is it just him wanting to stay relevant? We see him on TV. He's relevant enough. I guess the follow-up, maybe we can take this into the next segment. What's the % chance Bill Belichick is coaching in the NFL next season? Because he does come with some baggage. Not every job is perfect for Bill Belichick. Is there a job out there that would make sense? Or is it just going to come down to an owner with an ego that says he can go to his friends when they're smoking cigars and go, see who I got? I got Bill Belichick as my coach. I think we've seen the best of Bill Belichick at this point.
I would agree.
As a coach. We can save Hard Knocks and maybe more Belichick and more NFL conversation as we roll on. I think we only got to 3, but I don't do this very often. I just can't. I can't just stop and let's move.
Well, 5 sounds like more than 4.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I think it worked out well. Open segment. We'll take a call or two if you'd like. We'll read some text. We'll talk some NBA and some NFL. Maybe I'll let Brett talk some Wild as well. Lavelle Neal III joins us at the bottom of the hour. Brett and I are with you till 6:30. Hour and change left on this 3.5-hour tour. Glad to have you along for the ride.
Tune in to Wild Wednesday each week for your chance to win tickets to see your Minnesota Wild in an upcoming game. Wild Wednesday is presented by Jim Beam, a crowd pleaser since 1795.
Some breaking developments in the tragic story out of New York from a couple days ago. The murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson of Maple Grove. This just in from ABC News. They say the man suspected of gunning down Brian Thompson outside of Midtown Manhattan Hotel took a taxi to the Port Authority bus facility at 178th Street and boarded a bus out of New York City following the shooting. The unidentified man remains at large in the wake of Wednesday's attack, which was described by police as brazen, targeted, and premeditated. In another development in the investigation, police officers have recovered what is suspected to be the backpack carried by the suspected shooter. A source familiar with the case tells ABC News the bag was discovered Friday evening in Central Park, where the NYPD deployed an army of officers and drones to conduct a grid search. The source said they've shown the video. They got a pretty good shot of the face. It feels like, hopefully, it's just a matter of time before they catch this guy. Just an awful, awful story that's obviously had a ripple effect throughout insurance companies and big business around the country who have to really consider ramping up security. Was it Medica here that closed their office today out of a bundle of caution? Just a horrific story. And maybe even more horrific is reading a lot of the comments from people who, again, you hear maybe the worst of humanity when you read comments, whether it's in the newspaper or online. But the level of lack of empathy is troubling for me, and I'm sure for most. But just an awful story, and I know finding the guy is not going to provide any kind of closure to the Thompson family, but obviously a sense of peace would be felt in knowing that this guy's off the street. So that's the latest. They got the backpack. They know he left New York by bus. I believe the bus was headed back for Atlanta, but who knows where the guy's going to get off. And hopefully with the backpack, they'll find some kind of clues to track this guy down. But that's the latest out of the investigation in New York City. All right, back to the C section. It's a great text. We were talking about Belichick interviewing for the North Carolina job. A 763 guy asked, does Belichick's girlfriend go to school there?
Valid point.
That's a great one because she's probably still of college age. She's a youngster.
Anytime there's a quarterback in the transfer portal, you can almost predict where they're going to go based on where their girlfriend plays volleyball or soccer. It's almost foolproof.
Or softball.
What
do you got against softball?
I have nothing against softball. Right. Track and field, sure.
What were you going to share with us regarding Hard Knocks, the new in-season AFC North edition?
Yeah, so I was going to ask episode 1 just came out on Tuesday. It's AFC North, so 4 teams they're covering. I watched it, thought it was great. I always like the in-season one. I loved it in Miami last season.
We get to learn about Van Ginkel and
Yep. Tua, I love McDaniel, too. I think he's a great coach. And he's funny, too, charismatic. So yes. I love that.
It's so different. It just doesn't talk like a coach, act like a coach. He's just different.
The fact that he invented something new with that cheat motion that no one knew that was an option. And he basically invented it with Tyreek, I think is just fascinating. I'd love it if he was our offensive coordinator. But anyways, have you seen it? And your thoughts on the in-season in Hard Knocks?
I've seen about 20 minutes of it. Okay. I was watching it a couple nights ago. Wife got home from work, and so now I watched something more family-friendly that she would enjoy as well. But I do plan on watching it. I agree with you. It's more interesting than the preseason one, although the Bears one was fun, and now to look back at that Bears one and how fun and optimistic and excited everybody was. Yeah,
I couldn't watch it at the time. I might watch it now, the Bears one. But
yeah, that would be fun now that we know it's going to happen. What's cool about this one is you've got coaches that you really respect, right? Tomlin, Harbaugh, Stefanski, and then you get Zach Taylor with the Bengals. And I found it just the 20, 30 minutes I watched, they give you snippets of all those guys running meetings, right? And you watch Tomlin and Harbaugh, and you go, yeah, those are football. Even Stefanski, those are football coaches. And then Taylor addresses the room, and you can just tell the players are not buying in. Like, this joker is telling me what to do? Really? But no, wouldn't it have been awesome if it would have been the NFC North that they chose to do this year, the way this division's going right now? Because even though the Bears are irrelevant as usual, the whole head coaching thing happening and how Caleb's dealing with it would still be interesting. But to have the Lions and Vikes and Packers be the focus would be really fun. And if they decide to go division again next year, in light of how successful the North has been this year, maybe that's the division they pick next year. But I think it was a brilliant move for HBO to do this because it does give you a really cool inside look when the games matter most. And the AFC North is just full of such great rivalries. In fact, this weekend we get Cleveland at Pittsburgh. They just played that snow game 2 weeks ago where Cleveland shocked the world. And now they're like 7-point underdogs against Pittsburgh. And you know it's going to be closer than that because that's how these division games go. And I mentioned I do this underdog blog, and I really wanted to put Cleveland in as one of my 3 because it's everything. It checks every box I like. But I didn't because they just played 2 weeks ago. And I just think Tomlin gets his guys to rise up and say, were you embarrassed? I was embarrassed. And just take it out on him.
I wouldn't put any money on Jameis.
Well, and that's the other thing. They kind of played their game of the year. Granted, he imploded at the end, but the dude just threw for 500 yards. And now it's a short week, and now you're going into Pittsburgh where you just played them tough and beat them. Yeah, I can't believe in Jameis and the Browns this weekend.
Also, I mean, is there a less known coach than what's his name? Zach Taylor? His name is?
Yes.
You could have, before I watched that Hard Knocks, you could have gave me, $100,000 to name the Bengals coach. I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. I mean, he's just not a notable guy.
Well, he came in, I think, the same year as LaFleur. And I felt like they were both the same thing. Like, had you ever heard of Matt LaFleur?
Yeah.
I had never heard of Matt LaFleur when the Packers were interviewing. I'm like, seriously? And same deal. And we've talked about this. The very first press conference when they introduced Matt LaFleur, he looked like he was scared out of his mind.
Yeah.
Like an 8th grader who was asked to play up with the seniors and stand up and talk to the press. And even to this day, like we talked about TikTok earlier, which might get banned in the U.S. next month, so enjoy it now. I get a lot of the locker room stuff, like here's Kevin O'Connell talking to the team after the game. Love it. Here's Matt LaFleur talking to the team after the game. Love it. But if I watch Kevin O'Connell talk to his team after the game, and then I watch LaFleur do it, and you ask me who I want to play for, I'm playing for O'Connell all day long. He just feels more natural, like a leader, like he's one of the guys. LaFleur still, to me, feels like...
It's because he's short.
Well, I don't know. It's just, maybe it's his delivery. I just feel like the players just don't buy in because he feels like he doesn't belong. I don't know. It's very instructive to me to watch these coaches because that's when you really... Campbell last night, I couldn't watch it. It was all over my feed. Campbell post in the locker room.
I managed to avoid it. Yeah, so don't tell me.
I chose not to watch it, but you can. He was spitting and screaming, and his left tackle was vomiting while he was talking, and he was cheering him on for vomiting. And yeah, I like those locker room things. I think O'Connell's really natural and really believable, and looks like a leader when he does it.
But would Kevin O'Connell tell a opposing fan on the field to shut the bleep up? In pregame, like Matt LaFleur did last night. A lot of kerfuffle.
I had a couple texts asking me my thoughts. I saw some of the video afterwards. So he must have been right by the sidelines, right?
So they were doing the giant U.S. flag bit. Yep. And so he was a fan selected, and he turned around.
Oh, so he was on the field.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
So he was on the field trying, he was supposed to be unveiling the American flag, and instead he was turning around talking trash to all the Packers and doing like the throat slit and the whole thing. Yeah, man. And there were lots of 4-letter words exchanged for you lip readers who watch the footage. But
that's completely out of line for that fan. You're
100%
fortunate to be selected to do a patriotic duty to unveil the flag on the field, and you're going to pick that time to go all rube on the bit and trash talk everybody. You don't see LaFleur like that too often. You can tell that guy
was fired up,
crossed the line in a big way. Oh, I like to see him fired up, though.
Yeah.
I hope he was fired up after the game when he's like, can we try to stop a 4th down once?
Technically, they did stop a 4th down once.
They did once. You're correct. Can we maybe not give up 4 touchdowns on 4 4th downs to the same team in the same year? Has any team ever done that? No chance. I guarantee that's a record. No team has ever given up 4 touchdowns on 4th downs to one team in one season. And I don't think that's breakable. Like, I don't think anyone will ever break that record. So you can hang your hat on that for your green and gold last night.
You're really upset about this.
You can read my thoughts on the game at zonecoverage.com. I chose to invoke Motown with the 4 Tops. It's the same old song because that's kind of what it felt like to me when we play the Lions. Just play well, play them tough, good try, but you come up short. That was the chance to not come up short. And they failed. They just failed. All right. It's out of my system. No, it's not. We'll have some therapy on Sunday morning from 8 to 9. But in the meantime, there is a fan base that's much more distressed than ours. It's the Chicago Bears. It's not going to be all Bears conversation. I want to get some thoughts from Lavelle on the college football playoff, certainly on the Golden at bat. I don't know if he's already talked about that on the fan, but I haven't, and I can't wait to chat with him about that. So a plethora of items for our beloved Lavelle. He's next when we return on the Fan. We are back, 5:36 on a Friday afternoon. Seneca in for Barreiro. Brett Blakemore by my side, and we're very happy to welcome in our fourth and final guest on this Friday afternoon. Always a fixture at 5:30 on Friday. Lavelle Neal the third joins us. Lavelle, how we doing?
All is well. How are things in your world?
Things are good. Let's take care of business first. Who are we sponsored by, Lavelle? I forgot to ask Blakemore during the break. Do you know?
It's Allery's Bar and Barbecue, located downtown St. Paul at 7th Street, with shuttle service to Wild games, concerts at the X. Loons games were added this year, and Saints games during the summer. So, and the barbecue is outstanding.
Well, you had me at barbecue. That's a new twist to the new Allery's. Are we fully on board with the barbecue they're offering?
Yes, I'm a rib tip guy, and they do a great job with their rib tips. The burgers are fantastic. The brisket's great. It's Petey's Barbecue. He's been cooking up a storm here for the last several years, and he's taken over to the Allery's kitchen, and it's a great menu and a good time to have by all when you come to watch Bears games.
Are Packer fans welcome, or are we served leftovers and scraps?
Packer fans are welcome. If your money's good there, reluctantly, yes. But Packer fans, there you probably want to go around the corner to camp because that's where the traveling trophy is currently sitting at after the Packers beat the Bears a few weeks ago. So you may want to go over there. The same guy runs both bars, so he'll welcome you with open arms.
It obviously permanently resides over at that bar then?
I didn't say the word permanently. It currently resides at the bar. Matty Ufus is no longer the head coach, so you will not be a benefactor of a mismanaged game like you were a few weeks ago at Soldier Field. So that's all I got to say. I will say this though: I hope the Lions fan who was jaw-jacking with LaFleur before the game got kicked out of the stadium, or maybe possibly thrown in jail, because that's the time to celebrate America. He's on the field to help hold the flag during the anthem, and he's ripping into LaFleur, which forced a reaction from him. Just led to a very awkward scene. That's very disappointing for Lions fans in town. Should be very embarrassed by his behavior. Yeah,
we were just talking about that. That's unbelievable. I hope he did get escorted out, but I doubt it. All right, so much to unpack. Before we get to football, and you may have talked to Bump about this already, but I've not been sitting in this chair for a while. I didn't hear the segment. I got to hear your thoughts on this unbelievable, well, it's in the conversation stages, but unbelievable thought by Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball to institute the golden at-bat to the major leagues at some point, where a team, once a game, could just decide that, Shohei Ohtani just flew out. Well, guess what? You get to face him again, because we're going to implement the golden at-bat rule and put any batter we want in at any time once a game. Is this? I actually thought it was an Onion story when I first read it. I had to look at it twice. We're not serious here, correct? This is never going to happen in our lifetimes. Please tell me that's true.
It better not. Manfred, he's going to retire in the next handful of years here, so he's trying to push his agenda forward. He claims this isn't his idea, but for some reason he is the one who has brought this up and has spoken it into the media for it to be amplified. It definitely probably was a trial balloon, but the great thing about baseball is that it's not about the superstars doing their thing. It's about anyone doing something. And, the landscape is littered, jam-packed, full. Almost on a nightly basis, some unheralded player is making a play to help his team win. You think about the postseason. I'm a White Sox fan. I still remember in 1983, they're facing the Orioles in the postseason. Len Sakata was like a career 063 hitter against the White Sox. And I think he went deep off of them in the 83 playoffs.
Second baseman,
1987, Tom Lawless of the Cardinals comes through with a big home run. He's like a utility guy, occasional starter, not known for his offense. He hits a home run and has the first postseason bat flip ever.
Think of David Freese with the Cardinals not that long ago.
Yeah. So, exactly. So you're going to have these moments where people step up who normally haven't, but come through. And that's the beauty about baseball. And you're going to take that away just to make sure you're your best players. And I was thinking about this, too. You're down 4-2 in the ninth inning, and Ohtani leads off with a home run. It's 4-3. Now there's 2 outs in the ninth. So Ohtani gets the bat again to try to tie up the game. And then he hits a home run and ties the game up, so now he gets credit for 2 home runs in 1 inning. And you're going to have to put an asterisk next to that because it's because of the gold in the bat rule. So I just think it's ludicrous. It's unnecessary. You're trying too hard. You're trampling over. I don't want to say it's the sanctity of the lineup, but one of the things that we get fixated on is who's batting leadoff, who's cleanup, and how the bottom of the order is going to work. And anybody who's in the start line today can strike, and they can strike and make a big play and have a great at bat. And I just think you're making the game more like Rock and Jock All-Stars when you do stuff like that.
Next thing you know, they're going to put a runner on second base to start extra innings. I mean, where are we going to go from here? It's just unbelievable. I mean, Lavelle, I'm old enough to remember when the designated hitter was implemented, and I was probably 10 or 11. I think it was in the 70s. And I hated it as a kid, even though it's going to add to offense. Now the pitchers don't bat. It's the sanctity of baseball. And I like the clock, I think, is good. The no shift I like. I like some of the things they've done to try to improve the product. But this almost feels like they floated this out just to, hear what kind of response they got. And I have to believe it's overwhelmingly negative because, any relief pitcher that's ever lived was ready to go on strike, right? If suddenly now I'm a closer and I've got to face Aaron Judge back to back, if you so choose, it's ludicrous.
Well, here's the thing too: the winter meetings start this weekend in early next week in Dallas. I'm expecting every baseball official there is going to be asked about the goat in the bat.
Yeah.
So you'll get a resounding hell no coming from Arlington, whatever hotel they're at, on this subject, and hopefully it just kind of dies on the vine and goes away here because I just think they're trying too hard to add some excitement to the game.
No doubt. I hope you are correct. All right, let's switch over to football. We have not chatted since your favorite team fired its head coach the day after Thanksgiving. I'm sure you were surprised because the Bears have never done this midseason. I'm sure you thought it was time, it was welcome, but I want to hear it from you. Where are you now? After your Bears showed a little bit of life in the second half against the Lions, now the big bad man is out of the house. How you feeling about your squad?
Well, I was swearing up a storm at Allery's watching how the final seconds kind of just ticked down with him keeping that timeout in the back pocket. Dave, you have to understand that this guy has done this multiple times in the last 2 years. I think this is the 5th time. No, it's at least 4 times, maybe 5, since the beginning of the 2023 season, in which the Bears have lost a game in which they had a win probability of at least 91% in the fourth quarter, including twice when they had a win probability of 98%. So they have snatched defeat from the jaws of victory because this man either makes some stupid decision about use of timeout or not trying to get more yards to kick a field goal like he didn't against the Packers, setting up the situation for the Hail Mary loss to the Commanders, blowing fourth quarter leads to the Broncos, the Browns, and the Lions last year. It just gets to a point where he's committing too much coaching malpractice in order to have a job. So you got to move on. I don't care about them never firing a coach in the middle of the season just because they haven't done it in 104 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. People have to be held accountable. And, after the Lions loss, he commended the team for fighting hard, and then he started talking about we need to keep sticking together. And Jalen Johnson erupted and started swearing at him and just went bananas in the tirade about how he's sick of losing here. And I'm sure Kevin Warren was there, and I'm sure he saw that or at least heard about it and said, we got to make a move. So it had to happen. They had to get him out of the building now. And so now there's at least a renewed sense of hope as they get ready to play a depleted 49ers team on Sunday.
All right, well, let's first, one more thing on the coaching, because it's going to be interesting to see what direction they go. I read a report on Sports Illustrated today that Jeff Bezos might buy the Bears and then bring in Kyle Shanahan on a trade. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy speculation. A, are the McCaskies considering selling with the new stadium and a whole new era ready to get started? And B, give me your short list on head coaching candidates you would interview.
Well, it's funny you brought that up about the family situation because I was asking about it when the Bears are playing host to the Vikings, and there may be members of the McCaskey family that wouldn't mind selling the team right now. And Dave, I would say that my sense of the situation is that as long as Virginia's smelling the roses, they're probably going to own the team. Unfortunately, once that happens, maybe there'll be a different view about how they're going to handle that asset. But for now, they're going to stick with it and see if they can find the right path to go on, which means, fat chance that's going to happen because this family has made bad decision after bad decision through the years in terms of leadership roles, head coaches, GMs, quarterbacks, bad trades. So I don't see them selling the Bezos anytime soon as long as Virginia's around, to be honest with you. Right. Coaches I like to see them interview. Man, I don't know. I hope Thomas Brown does a good enough job to merit consideration because when he talks, I love what he says. I love his message. To me, when he speaks, I hear Mike Tomlin. But he doesn't have a lot of experience as an offensive coordinator, let alone, head coach. This is his chance to show if he can lead a group of 80-something men in the same locker room instead of just the offensive side.
Neither did Tomlin, though, right?
Offensive defense.
Tomlin didn't have a ton of that
coaching staff and delegate what he needs to delegate in order to be effective. As far as head coaching candidates outside the building, I mean, that's hard to determine. I mean, Brian Dable's probably going to get fired. I don't want him. I don't want Doug Peterson. About a third of the league, 25% of the league usually has a coaching turnover each off season. And out of that group, only 2 or 3 end up clicking. You go back to when Eberflus was hired, one of the last coaches to be hired in that cycle was Kevin O'Connell. And by far, he's the one out of that whole group because Dable was in that group. Eberflus was in that group. I think Josh McDaniels was hired by the Raiders, I think. There was a couple other hires there, and they just did not pan out the way that KOC has. And if you look back, I think Kwesi was hired as GM. I think he took nearly a month before he hired KOC. Meanwhile, Ryan Poles was hired as GM and hired Eberflus 2 days later. So I like to see a lengthy search here come up with quality candidates. Maybe Cliff Kingsbury. Maybe the OC in Washington. Maybe the OC in Atlanta. They've all have proven they're good offense coordinators. Kingsbury's been a head coach before. Maybe that'll matter, someone with experience. So it's going to be, hopefully it's a long process, but I hope Thomas Brown puts forth effort strong enough to at least merit consideration.
Well, it obviously makes sense to find an offensive coordinator to attach to Caleb Williams because that's the future of the Bears, whether it's Ben Johnson or the guys you mentioned or Liam Cohn down in Tampa. But the Bears never do what you think they're going to do. That's why I believe the next head coach of your Chicago Bears will be Mike Vrabel. Book it.
Vrabel would be a very interesting choice. Some people have thought about Brian Flores, and I was like, no, the Bears always go opposite. They always go from a defensive guy to offensive guy. So I don't see them having another defensive guy coming in as head coach. Kingsbury would be very interesting because he has experience with Caleb Williams going back to USC.
Yep.
And that could be reunite those two people. But we will see. Vrabel, I think Vrabel's probably going to be a hot commodity during the offseason for a number of teams.
All right, so your team's back in action in San Francisco. 2 teams in free fall right now. I always like a team with a new coach, maybe getting a bit of a bump. When's the last time the Bears have won a road game? It's been a long time, has it not?
No, Eberflus was like 3-18 on the road or something like that.
Yeah.
It was like a horrible, horrible number.
I think they played well Sunday. I like their chances against the Niners on Sunday. No Bosa, no Trent Williams.
I'm not sure. We still got some injuries. One of our offensive linemen's out for Sunday, Ryan Bates. Roshan Johnson, the backup running back and goal line specialist, is out, which means our second running back is Travis Homer, who basically is on the roster to be a special teams ace. And DeAndre Swift was playing with an injury last week, and he was limited in practice this week, but he's good to go. But if he gets an injury, we're going to be down to bare bones behind the quarterback there. Keenan Allen's playing banged up. DJ Moore is questionable. They expect him to play, but he's listed as questionable. So there's issues there. Jaquan Brisker hasn't played for 6 or 7 weeks following another concussion, and I'm worried about his career now because this is his third concussion and second in each of the last 2 seasons. So just like the 49ers, because they're losing, they don't have McCaffrey and they don't have McCaffrey's backup. Garindo, whatever his name is going to probably start at running back. Trent Williams he's out again. He was just declared out for Sunday. So they're dealing with their own.
All right, my optimism is waning. Yeah. My optimism is waning.
I think the Bears can keep the game close because despite their hatred for Eberflus, they've played well defensively and kept games close. So I expect a one-score game, but I just don't know if the Bears are going to be able to go out west and come back with a W or not.
Are you at a point now where you just want L's and let the draft order take care of itself?
Here's what I want. I want the Bears to either bite the Packers, Lions, or Vikings in the ass. They have one game left against each team. I want them to bite one of those teams in the ass before the season's over, and jumble up this. The best option would be to bite the Lions in the ass because that would bunch up to the top, the elite of the division. But I predict that one of those teams is going to lose to the Bears during this stretch here. They just can't. And the first time through those three teams, the Bears lost by combined 7 points. So they haven't been far off by pulling off a W, and I hope that they can win one of those games against them going down the stretch.
I'm going to say right now your best hope might be the Packers Week 18 because they could be locked into.
That's at Green Bay.
I know, but we're going to be locked into the 5 seed or the 6 seed. Nothing to play for. You got to go to Atlanta or Seattle the next week. So Green Bay rest. Well, what am I saying? Their backups would beat the Bears anyway. What am I saying? Strike that.
They almost lost to them in Soldier Field a few weeks ago, my friend.
Almost. What do you think Kirk Cousins has in store for him at the Purple Palace as regards to the fans when they see him take the field on Sunday?
Well, I was listening to part of your interview with my man, D. Orlando Ledbetter, who I've known for over 25 years.
Nice.
And I think Kirk's going to play well, but D. Orlando had me a little worried when he was talking about getting banged up and maybe he's lost something off his fastball from some of the hits he's taken because we saw the documentary Quarterback and how his body reacts to getting thrashed a little bit. But if he's relatively healthy, I expect him to play, be functional and be effective. I don't know. I don't think he's going to throw for 490 like he did on Monday Night Football earlier this season.
No.
But he definitely, they got a decent run again. Yeah, overall, they have a very decent offense. And, Cousins has practiced against a Brian Flores defense. So he may have some ideas of how to attack that or know what to expect when he has 10 men lined up on the line of scrimmage and trying to figure out which ones are going to drop back into coverage and which ones are going to blitz. He's got some experience with that. So I don't think he's going to dominate. I don't think he's going to get dominated either. So it's going to come down to I think the Vikings are going to win. I think they have a chance to have a really good offensive day.
The only way Kirk survives is if he rents a Segway before the game starts, because he's going to be running for his life against his Vikings defense on Sunday. I don't know if you watched him last week. He looked like he has nothing left. I think it's more than the Achilles. His arm looks nothing like we remember. Maybe it was a bad day, and maybe he'll be fortified by coming back up here. But I'm of the opinion this is a double-digit win for the Purple on Sunday.
I think he's going to fire a couple of darts. I don't think he's going to throw for 350 and 4 touchdowns, but I don't think he's going to be shabby.
Before I let you go, I want to get your quick thoughts on the college football playoff, which we're all experiencing for the first time with the 12-team playoff, and there's a game tonight that might have ramifications, and 4 or 5 tomorrow. Now, you can't ask me because I'm wearing an IU hat, and I'm still pinching myself that my alma mater is actually in the first 12-team NFL college football playoff. But do you like the way this has gone, where there's so much intrigue and so many teams still around? There's going to be controversy whether it's a 4-team thing or a 12-team thing. But how do you think it's gone so far with the first year of the 12-team playoff?
I think it's been great. I can't wait for this to expand to 16 teams. This last week in the college football was great viewing from start to finish because there was so much on the line across the country. Miami playing against Syracuse, some of these other matchups, and how things shook out. I think this is great. I usually rip the NCAA. I usually want chaos and disorder with everything they put together. But I think what happened this past weekend, with so much on the line with some of these games, teams trying to get into the playoff picture, that they're onto something here. And I think you'll see it expand to 16 teams. And here's the thing about that, too. In terms of expectations for your team, like Illinois finished 9-3 this year, all right? And they finished 20th in the poll.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if they win one more game in a 16-team field, they've got a shot to get in there. And suddenly, you look at your program a little differently in terms of expectations. If you can get to 10 wins, you got a shot at being in that top 16. That's a game changer for how the programs are going to be evaluated.
Yes.
I think PJ finished with 7 wins. He probably kicked away 2 games, definitely North Carolina, definitely Iowa, and you could argue that the Michigan game was a bad beat. But once you get to 9 or 10 wins, man, things can get really interesting in terms of making this field. So I really enjoyed watching college football last Saturday, and I think they're onto something with this.
Me too, especially seeing Ohio State get toasted. That was a lot of fun. And what's going to be fun, Lavelle, is watching the first round of these games in a couple weeks in home stadiums, like no neutral site bowl game sites are going to have. I mean, right now it would be Indiana at Georgia. Indiana going to Athens for a first round game. And so you get that, home team atmosphere for these first round of games. That's going to ratchet up these playoffs, I think, a whole nother level.
Plus, think of the revenue they're generating. The extra game, great for the college towns, great for TV viewing as well. So it's a win-win for everybody, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. What are you writing about this weekend?
I've been off all week, so I'm not writing anything for Sunday. I'm back in the saddle early next week. I think I'm working on a column on there's a Gopher hockey player who's married, and his wife is expecting a baby. And so I'm going to talk to him next week to see what his day, what the day is like with him, and how's it going to change with fatherhood involved while he's trying to play hockey.
That's a lot.
I think the baby's due in February, and that's when things are going to get hot and heavy for the Gophers here. So looking at that and a couple other things, there's plenty of stuff going on, especially with the Vikings, the Wild with the best record in the league, or at least the most points. The Wolves on a 3-game winning streak. There's a lot of stuff to write about now, my friend.
We'll look forward to it. Thank you, Lavelle. Enjoy your rib tips this weekend. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right, take care.
Lavelle, you got it. Lavelle E. Neal III, read his stuff, columnist at the Star Tribune. We'll pause here. We have another half hour. It's a 3.5-hour tour. Blake Moore and I are back. No calls. We'll go through some texts. We'll continue the NFL conversation, maybe throw some Wolves in there. Calls are welcome. 800-320-5326. We roll on after these. .04 on a Friday night. It's the Bumper to Bumper with Barreiro program. Dave Sinekin sitting in today. I'm in for Dan Sunday morning as well for a quick 1-hour tour of Sunday sermons following a Packer preview at 8. It'll be Sunday sermons at 9 before we take you to Vikings football Sunday. Got a tweet during the break from Dave, who sent it to me and to Carl, and wrote, the flagship station of the Vikings should not have Packer programming.
No.
Really? 29 years later, somehow we're still here. Some might not know the origin. This might be a moment to go to the Wayback Machine. Okay. Because when I first pitched Packer Preview to the Fan, it was summer of 1995, and the Fan was the home of the Vikings. The program director at the time, Mark Ginther, looked at me when I proposed it, and he basically said, what are you smoking? Like, we're the Viking station. We can't put Packer programming on. It's just not going to work. And I got it, but I'd been here about a year, not even. I had moved here from Chicago, and I just knew how many Packer fans there were. And I knew that they used to call the Fan, and they'd get shut down, like not talking about your team. Well, fast forward 1 year, 1996, and for some reason, the Vikings decided they'd try CCO for a couple of minutes.
Oh.
So the Fan was no longer the flagship station for about a 5-year period there. And the show got greenlighted in the summer of 96, 9 o'clock on Sundays. Funny, someone stole my time slot.
And here we are at 6 o'clock on Friday. Yes.
Leaving in the dark. Packers won the Super Bowl the first year we did the show. 5 years later, the Fan comes to the Vikings come to their senses, return to the Fan. And by then we have a nice bit of a following. So they don't boot me, but they move me back an hour. From 9 to 8. They needed that buffer hour once I was done with my nonsense before Vikings pregame at 10. So I resided at 8 for years and years and years. And then when the Gophers came aboard the iHeart family and we added a Gopher program, my show moved to 7, where we sit now 29 years later. But the beauty of technology now, it's a podcast too, so you can listen whenever you wake up. And now that Gopher season is over, we are on at 8 o'clock, a much more manageable hour than 7. But sorry, Dave, the fan gets it. It's a Sunday morning at 8. It's not going to kill you. There are other options.
Well, then the best is that when Dan and JG, when they leave early, when they do summer hours or whatever, ends the show early at 6 for Vikings programming, they'll get texts saying, leaving the show early? What, are you committed to the bit? But now we get a text from John and Shakopee. Dan always leaves early. Why don't you Packer crybabies leave early? So now we're overstaying our welcome.
We can't win.
Just, no.
We really can't win. We talked earlier about Kirk singing all the songs to Wicked while he watched the movie in the theater with his kids, and whether that's acceptable to sing along with a musical in a movie theater. I think we've all kind of agreed that's not acceptable. A number of people texted and said there are actually special screenings being set up to watch Wicked where it's a sing-along, where I think the words actually appear on the screen, and you're encouraged. That's great. We got a number of texts regarding the movie and singing along in theaters. Daryl from Chaska mentioned, I saw Wicked last night at the Southdale AMC. First movie into theater since before COVID. Sound was so loud, no one could hear you singing if you wanted. As for the movie, it was good. Not great. Ariana's character was solid. I don't know, what immediately came to my head was, so Daryl, this was the first movie you ventured out to see since COVID. I'm so curious why this was the movie. Was it...
I think it's wife-related.
Wife and kids? Wife and daughters? Well, maybe sons. Not saying it's hey,
we're not here to judge.
Hey, if my son wants to see Wicked when he's 8, I'm all for it. But I'm guessing, this is the one. This is the movie you break your 5-year streak to go see. It has to be girlfriend, wife, daughter related, doesn't it? Unless he's a theater guy, loves the show.
It's possible.
He's a Wickaholic. Do we call him that? Wickaholic, maybe? I just found that interesting that that's the one with, like Oppenheimer, all these big-time movies that have come out over the last 5 years.
I mean, Deadpool 3 was can't miss.
I enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah?
Wait. No, I'm thinking
and Wolverine.
I'm thinking Deadpool and Wolverine.
That's what that is.
Is that the one?
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. That was very funny.
Great.
Very funny. Rather bloody.
Yeah, well, that's Deadpool.
That's kind of the bit.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I'm bitter right now because if I have to sit here for the extra half hour, I expected to see Indiana, Miami of Ohio, and I'm watching
matchup.
I'm watching Indiana's wrestling team battle Illinois.
Oh, it's over.
Now they're shaking hands.
Yeah,
so
it's all over.
I don't think I'm going to miss too much. Indiana was edged by the Fighting Illini 34-3.
For a second, I thought that was the basketball score.
On the wrestling mat. No, Hoosiers are up 6-0. Just switched over. Quick start for your Indiana Hoosiers, or I guess my Indiana Hoosiers. I talked briefly with Lavelle about the college football playoff. I'm all in. I can't wait to see what happens this weekend. It starts tonight. Boise State, UNLV on the blue field. Boise State's expected to win, but UNLV gave them a real battle. It's only like a 2 or 3 point spread. And I think if Boise State loses, they're out. I don't think they're one that's going to sneak in with one of the at-large bids. So they've got a lot on the line, and they have the best running back in college football in Ashton Genty. And I'm looking forward to watching him play.
You know what bandwagon I'm hopping on, which one of your children will agree with? God, I hope Iowa State pulls it out over Arizona State and sneaks in.
Really?
That'd be so much fun. Oh, yeah.
Because you hate Iowa.
Well, I hate
is that
Iowa.
The reason?
Well, yeah. And my mom's a diehard Cyclone fan, and she's never seen them do anything, have any modicum of success. So if they can get into the first playoff, even if they lose in the first round, I think that'd be a huge success.
It would be great. I have a son at Iowa State. I've been to a couple games. Last year I saw him play Texas. At night, it was my first time at Jack Trice Stadium. It's an amazing fan base. Great place to watch a game. Great tailgating. So I know what it would mean to that place to be in the college football playoff. But that's a win and in situation. It's either the Sun Devils or the Cyclones. The loser's going to go to some bowl game.
Would the winner get a
late
bye?
in December. No, not in the Big 12.
It's the top 4 ranked conference winners.
I know, but I saw
Depends on how high they would jump in the rankings.
Arizona State is right now penciled in as the Big 12 winner, and they're the 12th seed in the 12-team college playoff. But I think Boise State does if they win. So I don't know how that works. Why does I
think if Iowa State would win and then they're ranked higher than Boise State, then they would get the bye. I mean,
I don't
know. That's how I understand it.
Boise State's ranked 10th. So unless UNLV upsets them, that would, I think, maybe prompt the Big 12. But Georgia, Texas tomorrow, a rematch there. Georgia, an underdog, even though they beat Texas in the first matchup. That's probably the game of the day. And then Penn State, Oregon. I mean, think about Penn State. They had no designs that they were going to make it to the Big Ten championship game. And then Ohio State gets embarrassed. I'm using that word, embarrassed by Michigan. And, as an Indiana guy who saw Ohio State kind of wreck our season the week before, you might think I want Ohio State to win because it makes that loss not look so bad. No. That fan base, I love seeing them get knocked down. Sorry, frequent In the Zone listener, Pete, if you're listening. I know I'm pissing you off right now. I'll probably hear from you tomorrow, but I enjoyed seeing Michigan wreck Ryan Day's day. And now Penn State has a chance against Oregon. And they seem to always come up short in these big games, but I give them a chance against Oregon. Haven't watched a ton of Oregon, but they haven't impressed me as a, absolute, Wisconsin played them tough for 4 quarters. So that'll be interesting tomorrow as well. And then our buddy Clemson Tiger guy will be cheering for his boys against SMU in a game where, SMU might feel like even if they lose, they might get an at-large bid. That'll stir up all the controversy. If they lose, now all the Ole Miss and South Carolina, all the SEC fans are going to be screaming that it's time for them to be moved back in.
Well, here's my thing with this whole college football playoff is that there's automatic bids. Because when it expanded, the talking point was, well, now instead of the 4, 5, and 6 teams feeling like they're getting robbed, now the 13, 14, 15 teams feel like they're going to get robbed. So what's the difference? The difference is there's a way in. You can win your way in. You don't have to rely on the committee liking your team. Florida State would be in last year's Florida State. They would have been in, no problem. They won their conference, automatic bid. College football was the only sport in all of American sports that did not have automatic bids. In college basketball, college hockey, you win your conference, you're in the tournament, no questions asked. Football was the only one where there was an eye test. It was subjective. It was stupid. So now there should be no excuse. I read an article, it almost made the top 5, of someone in the ACC is upset that Alabama is ranked above them or something like that. Win your conference. No, then you're in. So I don't want to hear any complaints. I think this playoff system is great.
It's fun. As Lavelle mentioned, it'll be 16 teams in the near future, and that'll be it, I would think. But again, it makes so many of these meaningless bowl games that we're used to meaningful. Now, these are real games on real campuses with real ramifications, and no one's sitting out their bowl game anymore. If they're playing in the playoff, all these guys are playing. Well, there'll be a couple guys that sit out, but most of them are going to play for a chance to win a championship. It's going to be a fun weekend, and we'll see Sunday how it all shakes out and who the final 12 are. It even gives a team like the Gophers, you have to have hope when you see a program like Indiana turn things around and realize, you could have a dream season where the schedule, all right, don't have to play Oregon, don't have to play Penn State, still playing Big Ten teams, but they're not all very good. So you hammer all of them, you have a chance. And not just for the Gophers, but for a lot of those programs on the periphery, there is a reasonable way in if everything goes your way.
And how much NIL money does Indiana have? I mean, that's always the excuse in this town is, well, we just can't compete with Ohio State's NIL money or Michigan's. How much does Indiana have? They made it work. Great coaching, great transfers. Come on in.
Mark Cuban is an alum.
Damn it.
They've got a lot of money.
What got lost? My narrative.
What got lost in the Kurt Cignetti new contract, where he's the 4th highest paid Big Ten coach, is that they upped the assistants kitty to like $11 million to pay his assistants. That's what Ohio State pays their assistants. So Indiana has the money to just say, you know what? We're not going to make this a fluke. We're going to try to actually build something here, and we're going to pay our assistants top dollar. You just got to find an alum like Mark Cuban. Even John Mellencamp still, I think all the money he makes off his songs in the 80s still do him pretty well. He's a pretty big contributor as well. All right, final break. We'll wrap things up, kind of circle back to what we talked about with our guests and all the big things happening this weekend with our local squads. Final segment, bumper to bumper, right after these.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
Brought to you by American Pressure.
So apparently there's a portion of Packer Nation that is up in arms that Jared Goff was not declared down on that final play. Because then obviously in college football, once your knee touches the ground, you're down. So just got a text, didn't leave his name. Writes, here's what the rule officially says. An official shall declare the ball dead and the down ended when a quarterback immediately drops to his knee. Okay, well, that's not what Goff did. I mean,
no.
The intent, we're talking intent here. If the intent is that he's going to go to a knee and give himself up, that's the end of the play. When you're Dan Campbell's your coach and you're going for it on 4th and inches, even though a field goal is going to win it with 30 seconds left, and you stumble on a foot and your knee touches the ground, you're still allowed to hand the ball to a ball carrier.
Now, whose foot was it? We haven't gotten to the bottom of that.
Does it matter?
Does it? What if it was Kenny Clark's foot that tripped him up?
Oh, then he's down?
Theoretically.
He's tackled? I have to believe it's an offensive lineman, right? I mean,
it's probably an
I'm not
offensive
sure
lineman.
Kenny Clark has the flexibility to get that foot past the lineman that quickly.
I'm just being devil's advocate for fun.
Fair.
But I think it would.
It's a fair question.
If it was Kenny Clark's foot, I think he would be down.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
I don't think it was Kenny Clark.
But no, he wasn't.
Pretty sure it wasn't. All right, let's circle back to whence we came. 4 guests today, beginning with Michael Russo, who had chatted with us, mostly you, about the Wild embarking on a 3-game West Coast road trip beginning tonight against the Anaheim Ducks. That's a 9 o'clock start right here on the Fan. Pre-game at 8:45. What do you want to see your favorite team get out of their weekend out west?
So we're so injured right now, I just want 2 points. I honestly don't care how it happens. It's always an ugly and weird game in Anaheim. It's almost like playing football against Northwestern at Northwestern. Like you just kind of have to make your own energy and your own juice. If they can get 2 points by hook or by crook, I'll take it. We then talked to D. Orlando Ledbetter. He covers the Falcons for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He spent some time with Kirk, as did Ben Gessling, our 4:30 guest. Spent some time in Atlanta with Kirk this week. Both said that he's obviously very much looking forward to coming back. I don't think he's going to feel that way at about 3:30. I don't think he'll get back to Atlanta fast enough. I think this will be Kirk's final start of the 2024 season. Wow.
I think Michael Penix will take over next week because it's just not going to go well.
Above average.
It's my hot take. I'm going to stick with it. Top 5 we did. Talked about all these fun things. And then Lavelle E. Neal III chatting Bears and Golden at bat. Wolves back in action tonight. You can hear that on the iHeart app. Go to the Timberwolves station and hear Alan Horton's coverage of the first of 2 against the Golden State Warriors tonight and Sunday night. Warriors played last night, won, surprised the Houston Rockets. Golden State had lost 5 in a row. Steph Curry did not play last night. Draymond Green did not play last night. They are both expected back tonight against the Wolves. Andrew Wiggins questionable with an ankle. He had 23 last night. Good chance, again, for the Wolves to show that they turned a corner. 2 back-to-back games where they held the L.A. teams to 80 points. I don't expect them to hold Golden State to 80 points, but that's not the bit. Continue to play solid defense. Show that you've turned a corner. No Rob Dillingham again tonight. Still out with that was an ankle or a shoulder. I forget what he's dealing with now, but he will not play tonight. But we'll see how they do. We'll chat about it tomorrow. Hope you'll get up early with Double T and me in the zone. 8 o'clock tomorrow, a heavy dose of Timberwolves and NBA, along with plenty of NFL as always as well. I'll finish out my weekend with Sunday sermons, Sunday at 9. Hope you'll tune in for that. Nice work today, Mr. Blake Murr. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I'll see you the next 3 days.
Yeah, I'll see you a lot this weekend.
See you tomorrow.
Heavy dose of Double B. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy the warm temperatures. Everybody, let's hope for a fruitful weekend for all the Minnesota teams. Bump will be back in this chair along with JG on Monday. Until then, have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.
You need me, I'll be there.